Architects of Prosperity. How the Founding Fathers Shaped America's Tariff Legacy. Introduction. Welcome to today's radio program. We're embarking on a fascinating journey through history to explore a cornerstone of America's economic foundation, the Founding Fathers' perspectives on tariffs. These taxes on imported goods were more than just fiscal tools. They ignited passionate debates that shaped the young nation's identity. From protectionism to free trade, the views of George Washington, Alexander Hamilton, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, John Adams, and Benjamin Franklin reveal their diverse visions for America's economic future. Let's dive in and explore how these architects of prosperity shaped the nation's tariff legacy. Historical background. To understand the Founding Fathers' views on tariffs, we must first set the stage. The year is 1789, and the United States has just adopted its Constitution. The federal government faced a monumental challenge: generating revenue without an income tax. The Revolutionary War had left behind a staggering debt, over $75 million, a massive sum for the time, owed to both domestic creditors and foreign nations, such as France. Tariffs emerged as the solution, providing funds to repay this debt and sustain government operations. But the stakes were higher than mere finances. America's economy was fragile. Manufacturing was in its infancy, concentrated in the Northeast, and struggled to compete with Europe's industrial giants, particularly Britain, which flooded American markets with cheap goods. Meanwhile, the southern states thrived on agriculture, exporting tobacco, cotton, and rice. This regional divide fueled tension. The North craved protective tariffs to shield its industries, while the South favored free trade to maintain open export markets. These economic fault lines set the stage for the tariff debates, reflecting not just policy preferences but the broader struggle to define America's economic destiny. George Washington's view on tariffs. As America's first president, George Washington laid the groundwork for the nation's economic policies. In 1789, he signed the Tariff Act, a landmark law that imposed duties on imports to fund the government, reduce war debts, and protect fledgling industries. In his first State of the Union address in 1790, Washington declared, "A free people ought not only to be armed but disciplined, to which end a uniform and well-digested plan is requisite." This wasn't just rhetoric. It signaled his belief that economic stability, bolstered by tariffs, was essential for national strength. Washington's vision extended beyond revenue. He saw tariffs as a path to self-reliance. In a 1789 letter to the Marquis de Lafayette, he wrote, "Though I would not force the introduction of manufactures by extravagant encouragements, yet I conceive that it is the interest of the United States to encourage them." This pragmatic stance balanced protectionism with caution, reflecting his focus on both defense and long-term prosperity. His leadership ensured that tariffs became a foundational pillar of the early republic's economy. Alexander Hamilton's view on tariffs. No founding father championed tariffs more fervently than Alexander Hamilton, the first Secretary of the Treasury. In his groundbreaking 1791 report on manufactures, Hamilton argued that protective tariffs were vital to nurture American industry against foreign competition. He observed, "There are nations which have gone so far as to make their industry and commerce objects of bounty. In such a state of affairs, the government must intervene to protect its citizens." For Hamilton, tariffs served as a shield against Europe's subsidized exports, particularly those of Britain, which threatened to stifle American manufacturers. Hamilton's vision was ambitious. He proposed specific duties, such as a 10% tax on cotton goods, to make imports more expensive, giving domestic producers a better chance. His report wasn't just theory. It was a blueprint for economic independence, advocating for a system where tariffs, alongside infrastructure and a national bank, would forge a robust national economy. This framework, later dubbed the American System, positioned Hamilton as the intellectual architect of America's industrial rise. Thomas Jefferson's view on tariffs. Thomas Jefferson's tariff philosophy was complex and evolved. Early on, as a Virginia planter, he leaned toward free trade, prioritizing agriculture over industry. In his notes on the state of Virginia, 1785, he questioned protective tariffs, stating, "The political economists of Europe have established it as a principle that every state should endeavor to manufacture for itself, but we have an immensity of land courting the industry of the husbandman. Is it then best that all our citizens should be employed in its improvement, or that one half should be called off from that to exercise manufactures?" This reflects his belief that America's vast landmass was its greatest strength. Yet, as president, Jefferson faced realities that tested his ideals. In 1807, he signed the Embargo Act, halting all U.S. exports to pressure Britain and France during the Napoleonic Wars. Although not a tariff, this drastic trade restriction demonstrated his willingness to use economic policy for national purposes. Later, in an 1816 letter to James Madison, he conceded, "We must now place the manufacturer by the side of the agriculturalist." This shift acknowledged the need for some protectionism, although he remained wary of tariffs, such as those on wine, that he saw as burdensome to consumers. James Madison's view on tariffs. James Madison, often referred to as the father of the Constitution, played a pivotal role in the tariff debate. As a congressman in 1789, he helped craft the Tariff Act, and as president, he embraced protective policies. In his 1815 State of the Union address, Madison asserted, "The necessity of protecting our manufactures has for a long time been admitted by every man who has duly considered the subject." He supported Henry Clay's American system, which paired tariffs with internal improvements, like roads and canals, to unify the nation's economy. Madison saw tariffs as a competitive tool. By raising the price of foreign goods, they gave American producers an edge, fostering industrial growth and national cohesion. His pragmatic approach bridged regional divides, aiming to balance the interests of North and South while strengthening the federal framework he'd helped design. John Adams' view on tariffs. John Adams, president from 1797 to 1801, adopted a more moderate stance on tariffs. His administration inherited Hamilton's tariff system but made no significant changes. Adams' focus was elsewhere, navigating the quasi-war with France and maintaining national stability. While he didn't explicitly state his position on tariffs, his inaction suggests an acceptance of the status quo rather than opposition. The economic policies of his term were built upon earlier foundations, reflecting the political constraints he faced. Benjamin Franklin's view on tariffs. Benjamin Franklin stood apart, a steadfast advocate for free trade. In 1774, he proclaimed, "No nation was ever ruined by trade," a mantra rooted in Adam Smith's economic theories. Franklin opposed tariffs, especially export taxes, calling them a sly attempt to pick the pockets of the people. His belief in unrestricted commerce stemmed from a broader philosophy of liberty. Economic freedom, he argued, fueled prosperity. Franklin's voice added a counterpoint to the protectionist tide, influencing debates even as his views diverged from the majority. The impact of tariffs on the early American economy. The tariff policies these founders shaped left a lasting mark. Hamilton's protective tariffs spurred industrial growth, particularly in the North. By the early 19th century, textile mills and ironworks began to thrive, bolstered by duties that curbed British imports. Yet, this success deepened regional rifts, as Southern planters chafed under policies favoring Northern factories, sowing the seeds of discord that would echo into the Civil War era. Jefferson's Embargo Act, conversely, revealed the pitfalls of trade policy. Intended to safeguard American neutrality, it crippled merchants and farmers reliant on exports, slashing trade volumes and sparking economic distress. This misstep underscored the delicate balance between protection and openness, a lesson that resonated in later tariff debates. Conclusion. The founding fathers' tariff views were as varied as their visions for America. Washington and Hamilton saw tariffs as engines of self-sufficiency and industry. Jefferson evolved from a free trade advocate to a cautious protectionist. Madison used them to unify the nation. Adams stayed the course, and Franklin championed open markets. These perspectives, forged in the crucible of a new republic, reflect the economic and ideological tensions of their time, and laid the groundwork for America's ongoing tariff saga. Closing remarks. Thanks for joining us today. We hope this in-depth examination of the founding fathers' tariff legacy has shed light on a pivotal chapter in America's economic history. Tariffs remain a contentious issue in today's global economy, echoing the debates of the 1789 era. Tune in next time for more historical insights, and have a wonderful day.